evening, everybody. Tonight's going to be a different night, as I am somewhat all over the place. All right, let me get this down here real quick, because I can hear echoes and more things. I want to say something about this storm. No one, and I mean no one, has ever witnessed a storm like this before. No one. Meteorologists, from amateurs to professionals, have noticed some wide swings in phenomena that they've never seen before. From pressure changes to compression events at the top, aircraft picked that up, to hyperwinds. It speeds up, slows down, intensifies, decreases. By all rights, this storm should have been a Category 1 because it was starved of the hotter waters. Then it dropped 50 millibars in about 6 minutes. Incredible. It reached the hotter water. Threw those straight up in the air. There were inside of the storm, there were quite a few phenomena happening. Is it breaking up badly? Do you guys have terrible sound? I'm going to have to watch this tonight. Let's see. Let me do a verification right here. It could be part of your systems here. Let's see. Let's find out. Well, the transmission side is perfect. It's a bit distorted. It's kind of loud. Let me turn that down. How about that? Better? Better? Yeah, if you guys have distorted sound, take note, we do have a storm, right? And some of you guys may have bad connections. Okay? You may have some terrible connections. Keep that in mind. Right now, the winds are back up to 165 miles an hour. It is confirmed a Category 5. Wind speeds are increasing. It will widen. Hopefully it weakens just a tad as it goes over Florida. But my goodness, it's a monster. It's only the beginning of greater phenomena. It is. Only the beginning. And today has been a very challenging day, right? I was talking to some FEMA folks in a few places. And they are, let's just say, we got to be a little more responsible in our data. How about that? How about that? All right, you guys, listen, tonight, because of this storm and some more things, you guys I will answer as many questions as possible. But before I go into the questions, I'm going to tell you something else. You all know that in the Middle East, a real eruption of war is soon to begin. You guys know that, right? So in comparison to what we will have in a very short time, we're talking about potentially hours, we have had minimal combat in the Middle East. A real war is about to break out in the Middle East. And so I need you guys to buckle up right now because they're going to blame everything on Israel. They're going to say that Israel overreached. The world will turn against Israel. I'll tell you why. Listen, now I want you guys to hear me on this as clearly as possible. What's happening on the ground in the Middle East is different from what's in the rumors. It's different. All these, the inflammation of stories is going to turn against Israel. Many people unwittingly are going to help in doing that. I don't want you guys involved in that. You remember at the beginning of the year, I said we have to be very careful with data. We have to be very careful in our accusations with information. We have to be responsible. I mean, very responsible. People are not being responsible with information at all. And so the internet and people are beginning to believe in almost, I'd say, 90% lies. They really are. There are news stories in the USA. I hate to say this, but something has happened to the internet where now the lies have jumped to alternative media. And now it seems like even though mainstream media does not cover everything, I promise you something is flipping. Something is flipping. Because now they, right, this is mainstream media. Mainstream media is trying to be careful with the data, telling the truth, and now alternative media is accepting the lies and spreading more lies. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's crazy. It is absolutely nuts. It's bonkers. But the same thing is going to happen in Israel. People are going to lie about the Middle East, not knowing that all of that information is going to cause people in Israel to be tortured. That's going to cost some people their souls. I would say this. See, that's why I have if I don't have direct knowledge, I don't want to say anything about it. I really don't like to talk about things I don't have direct knowledge of. I have to be passionate about a subject, or I'm going to get bored, and, that's the end of that. But if I know a truth, if I know something, I'm going to say it passionately because I know it for a fact. So, we have to, my goodness, we're going to have to be careful. We're going to have to be careful. I think we're a bit too free. Because so many people are not, nothing happens if somebody tells a big whopper. Nothing happens, right? Nothing. But now it's causing major issues. It is. It really is. It really is. That's why I had to get on the ground. That's why I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And thank God for certain individuals the Lord must put in place. They have been my transportation for a little while. And they've been very kind to take me into a few places. Very kind. And, to see what's happening is something else. It really lets you know there's an evil component in the world that's not going away. It's growing. It is. It's growing. Maybe that's why. There's always something in the Bible that it always disturbed me, how people worship the beast so freely and how they were part of the beast system so freely. That always bothered me. But now I can see it. It's a safe haven. It's a safe haven away from persecution. Have you guys noticed something? When Jesus walked the earth, only evil people screamed, persecute him. But let me ask you this. Who's saying persecute him now? Who's persecuting people now, honestly? Who's doing it now? Everything is changing. Just like, we knew it was going to change like that. And the Lord warned us. I beg people, don't take the way of violence. Don't do that. Please don't take the way of violence. Because the Lord said, if a person takes that way of violence, that's what will consume them. It's their torment. They'll be tormented by it. So now you have a lot of believers in Christ who are leading the charge in persecuting others. Not good. I'll tell you what. Persecution can take the covering of mercy off of you. Remember that. It's not about being right. Right? Because some people persecute because they say, no, I'm right. Well, it doesn't matter if you're right. It matters if you're in alignment with your King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Correct? Never forget who your King is. Never forget who your Father in heaven is. Never forget the mandates of Christ or his principles. Never forget, nobody's forcing anybody to serve Christ. Nobody's forcing a soul to be a part of the kingdom. It's all voluntary. But if you want to be a part of the kingdom, align yourself with Christ, always. Because evil is in high deceit mode right now, and many are its prey. Many people are falling for things, right? They are. They're falling for too many things. When you fall for something, I'll give you guys a hint of something. You know something is wrong because internally you feel kind of twisted. Spiritually, something will twist inside of you. It's almost like you're in the wrong standing. As soon as you get whatever it is right, you feel at peace again. If something is stealing your peace, right? Because God does not steal your peace. If something is stealing your peace, something is wrong internally. You should never be without your peace, no matter what the situation is. This hurricane, it should come. You should still have your peace. Being able to lend a hand or help family, encourage people, do what you have to do. But you should never be without your peace. If you've lost your peace and you're twisted inside, because some people are being taken over by this mindset that every day they wake up, something in they'll try to compensate, saying everything is so dark in the world. No, Jesus said, I leave you my peace. Right now I can see how dark it is in the world. It does not affect the peace that's in my spirit. It does not affect it. It certainly cannot diminish it, right? I can be saddened by things. That sadness does not disturb my peace. But I know what it is to have let something out of my mouth that will cause me conviction and cause me to feel a little twisted inside. And so I'm telling you guys, I'm asking you guys to remember to take note of that and align yourselves with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. It will be life or death eternal for all of us. When the torments begin and people realize they can't die, when people realize a huge army is on this earth waiting that humanity has not yet encountered, and they are waiting to do the bidding of their commander, and no one is going to stop them in what they're trying to do. No one can outrun them. No one can outgun them. No one. To be around one of those things is to vomit the entire time. It'll make you sick the entire time. You will not outsmart it. You'll not hide from it. They will be the beginning of torment. And they won't kill you. That's why in the Bible it says, there's coming a time when the living will envy the dead. That means you're going to see a dead person and desire to be that dead person. You're going to say to yourselves, the dead have it better than us. You're going to notice People are going to start dropping like flies. They will. Your neighborhoods are going to be full. Before you know it, they're going to be empty. Hardly anybody around. The population is going to decrease suddenly, rapidly. People will turn militant and evil quickly. You hear me? They're going to turn militant. If they see you, they're going to do anything they can do to take from you. Do you guys know what it is? Let me express this to you guys. Imagine one day all the prison doors in the USA open up. Now you know some of the people that are locked behind bars who take joy in the torment of people. Do you not know that prison is full of people who are full of dark ambitions, who don't mind to torture people, who have done horrific things? They're also in shape. They've been locked up all this time. What would happen if all of a sudden they were all loosed? I'll tell you what would happen. We would lose society. We would lose it. We would. Don't expect those doors to stay shut forever. Don't do it. Most people don't even realize what time they live in. Do you guys know what's going to happen next year? Get used to seeing robots. You will see them next year walking around in the streets, helping people out, restaurants and stores. You'll see them as assistants in homes. We're talking about robots, walking robots that look like you and I. Not these jerky-looking things you see on television. 2025 is the release of these robots. Do you guys realize what's happening? Do you know we're only months away from a major release of technology? These things can do your chores, wash dishes, help you cook, do all sorts of things. They can interact with you, take selfies with you. Our society is changing. Colorado is still fighting laws to keep your thoughts private. Why? You guys have heard me talk about BCI devices. Brain-to-computer interface devices. Here's what you don't know. Do you know that those BCI devices allow you to be telepathic with somebody else? Yes, telepathic. That means you don't have to use your lips anymore. They were using them underwater. You don't have to talk. You can hum, you can do anything. And it will take those thought patterns and transmit it directly to somebody else, and they can hear every word you say. Or you can have those words come out on a loudspeaker without you moving your lips, without you breathing, without you doing anything. That means you can both send your thoughts and receive your thoughts. They can also take somebody else's thoughts and send them directly to your head. By the way, that technology is already out. It's already on the market. It's on the market. It's on the market. They lied when they kept saying this stuff was, 20 years in the future. No, it's right now. The big releases begin in January of 2025. Pre-release, November 26th. Boy, oh boy. That means even with no device, you're transmitting See, that's what you don't know. You're always transmitting. You don't have to wear a device. You can put on your tinfoil hat, copper mesh hat. It's not going to help you. Your entire body transmits on a continuous basis. Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't believe. Somebody said they saw on TikTok where FEMA guy did what? Let me see. No, I'll tell you something. TikTok is boy, that's a cesspool of information, isn't it? TikTok really is a cesspool of information gone wrong. It really is. It really is. I had a real sit down with a few folks in the agencies, and we were just shaking our heads. These guys believe in Christ. You wouldn't imagine how many people in FEMA believe in Christ. That's why they're working for FEMA. Do you know that? They weren't drafted. They voluntarily work for FEMA because they believe in Christ, because they want to be on the ground. It's like me. I have an overwhelming passion to be right where the trouble is, to help people out. I do. In fact, with a hurricane like this, for example, with a hurricane, when I see people in distress, I do not want to be comfy anywhere. I want to be right there on the ground. I'm going to be with them. I want to comfort them. I'm going to give them direct aid. And there's a lot of people who join FEMA for that reason. If we on social medias, right? You know how sometimes somebody will tell a small little tiny lie and somebody else picks it up and they add something to it. Before you know it, it's this full-blown story. It's not real. It's just not real. There are people in FEMA who are saddened. And a lot of Christians who persecute FEMA. And they always say they don't even know who's in FEMA. But they try not to pay attention to it. They try not to. They're just like you and I. They're just like you and I. They believe in Christ strongly, so much so that they would put their lives on the line to go and help out people like in Asheville. You know, my two nieces, the day after, the night of that event, they were in a place where FEMA was not, right? But I have a friend that was in a place where FEMA was. They didn't see FEMA. And their phones were down, and they were going to these little things, and it is so confusing out there, right? They know about FEMA. They do. They know about FEMA. But FEMA is very confused. Well, let's just put it this way. People who don't like government agencies, or they have a problem with it, or they believe social media too much, or they just would rather believe that the government is coming after them. All too often, they will say something before. They'll say something too quick, right? They won't give people a chance. There's one lady who actually spoke and said that FEMA was not there, and people were there helping her, and they were helping her, but she was actually talking. I forgot who she was talking to, somebody. And she said FEMA didn't show up. She was angry. Where were they? She didn't realize that the guys that were helping her were from FEMA. She didn't realize that. Right? So here's what I'm saying, though. This is why we have to be careful with what we say. Now, does that mean FEMA's, there are people in FEMA who are, they fell down from heaven, this, that, and no. You're going to have bad apples in every organization. You will. You're going to have bad actors in every organization. You're also going to have stories that surround every organization all the time. You're always going to have a story about these organizations. My advice to anybody is just make sure that you have hands-on information, right? Make sure. Because in most cases, if you don't have direct knowledge, something is not right. Something is not right. Somebody said, do they not have uniforms? Well, they have shirts. They have shirts, but when the shirts are covered with mud, you can't see FEMA on their shirts. They were out there with chainsaws and everything. You can't see FEMA on there, right? Can't see FEMA when they're dirty. Everybody starts looking alike. Everybody looks alike with mud on their face. But anyway, those things, they happen. They just happen right now. And it's so bad because I know Virginia and West Virginia and North Carolina, they put out a plea that FEMA's looking for volunteers, anybody who would volunteer their manpower to help, clean up some of the debris. Do you know nobody showed up on the first day? Nobody showed up. Second day, nobody showed up because of social media. Nobody showed up, and because people did not believe it. That's how distorted things are becoming. They really needed volunteers. There was a woman stuck in a place. They needed some folks. They're just short of manpower. Think about that. They're short of manpower. I know that, just so think of it this way, in West Virginia alone, now I know this for a fact, 7,000 crews, people came in to restore the lights in West Virginia alone. 7,000 in West Virginia? West Virginia didn't even make the news. Right? How many people live in West Virginia? They were out of power. They got hit hard by the winds. Trees were falling all over the place. 7,000 people, people from all over the USA came to help to restore the lights. Virginia, it was even more. North Carolina, it's even more. Can you imagine that? You didn't hear about West Virginia, did you? You didn't hear about that. Even the governor did not know that West Virginia was that bad. There are people right now, they still have no water. Everybody went to Asheville, right? It wasn't good. It wasn't good. That southern half of West Virginia was smacked. Well, it did its damage there. And if the bad part is social media. Social media is good for spreading the controversial stories. Well, what about the truth? Right? What about the truth? Anyway, with information, be very cautious with information. Right? Now I can tell you something else too. Artificial intelligence is going to be regulating social media outside of the corporate owners. Now that may sound confusing right now. It's going to cost people. There are certain things I will not, directions I won't take anymore online. Here's why. Suppose AI tags you as being suspended from communications, right? There would be no electronic device you'd be able to use to ever speak on the internet again, either by text or any other means. Do you know that? It would stop you in a heartbeat. It would. I know people are going to have difficulties because of allowing things to slip, things of that nature. But listen, they're going to have a crackdown on misinformation. Do you guys hear me? They're going to have a crackdown so heavy on misinformation, and it's going to become quite embarrassing. Remember, I told you about these BCI devices for a reason. Suppose your favorite YouTuber, you hear them speaking by mouth one thing, but by the mind, they don't even believe in what they're telling you. How embarrassing would that be? If you were to hear your favorite YouTuber speak about a subject, they don't believe themselves. How embarrassing would that be? How embarrassing would it be to have two feeds projected? One from what the person is saying with their mouth, the other is what is being read from their mind. And then that's corroborated by back-channel communications. How embarrassing would that be? This is what we're getting into, right? They're going to have a crackdown on the internet because everybody's stuck their pictures on the internet. And if you have children, chances are your children's faces are being utilized on the dark web right now. Just so you know that. Just so you know that. Yep, like a hot mic. Just like a hot mic. I don't care if my mic is hot. I honestly don't. You want to get bored? Then listen to a hot mic when it's, when I do it. I don't mind it here. Because I have a rule. If it causes me some issues, I was in the wrong in the first place. All right? I'll never have a discussion privately I cannot have publicly. That's the truth. That is the truth. I'll never do that. And my thoughts, well, they may say more than my mouth does. But there's no guile coming from my thoughts. There's a lot of push. I push myself. I do that a lot. I do it a lot. But let's just say I refuse. I just refuse to live specific ways. I refuse it. Yeah. I'll have no problem with a BCI device. No problem whatsoever. I've used them before. I have no problem with them. Right? If anything, I talk a little too much by the mind. But everything aligns itself. Right? Everything does. But you would notice one thing. You would notice one thing. I happen to become deeply saddened when people act archaic and hostile. I can't stand violence. It's very depressing when I see people going in the wrong direction. It is. It's deeply disturbing when people say anything against the Lord because they don't know. It is disturbing when people edify demons. It is a sad thing to see good people choose destructive directions in life. And I pray a lot. In fact, I didn't even know this, but I told this before. They put me under a few times in my life, right? When I was under, I talked about technology and Christ. That's what I talked about. Technology and Christ. Somebody says, Mike, how long? What? How long will it take, if at all, Florida to recover? Oh, not too long. Not too long. The storm surge is going to be the problem. So on your coastlines, right? Imagine 9 to 12 foot storm surge. That's going to be the problem. Water damage. Of course, Florida is, there's always a risk. You know what? I'll put it this way. You guys remember at the beginning of the year, I was talking about Florida and the water was rising. That's something I happen to believe from what I was shown. I don't discuss all things in detail. But the water event is no joke. And it will begin to consume quite a few things. It will. Without a tsunami and without a storm, suddenly the water is going to rise. It will rise. Somebody said he had a dream with Pastor Paul in Florida and the water was ankle deep. No, never had that dream. I had a dream he was on a boat. He was on a boat coming around a corner and he was saying what? Yeah. Never in any of those dreams was he ever in the water. He was on the boat. He was on a boat. And people were waiting. There were tables set up and people were waiting on him. But that implied, I had that before. Oh my goodness, that's a very old dream before I knew anything about Pastor Paul or anything about, in fact, that's when, that was even before Angela and I actually met each other. And she's the one that introduced me to Pastor Paul after she heard my description of him, right? I just couldn't believe that, that was him. That was him. That was him. So he was on the boat. That was a representation of timing, if you know that. Also during that time, as he was coming around that corner, right, as more and more people were gathering in, and that was representation of people coming to Christ, these things from the heavens were falling down, knocking the souls of people out of their bodies into the abyss, a black abyss. Now, these people were knocked out of their bodies into a black abyss, going into nothingness. And whatever that thing was took over their bodies and went back to their families. Oh my, those things were ugly. Those things were deadly. Quite deadly. I did get the sensation that, let me go deeper on that. Those black things that came from the heavens, that knocked people out of their bodies down into the abyss, because I was in one guy's body and they came down so quick. It was just one that knocked me out. I went into death, into the abyss, down into the ground, and I could see up. But I could also see this thing. I could see this thing inside my body, the body that was assigned to me, going back to my family. And I thought about something. Listen to me. You're the only covering your family has. You are. You are. If something goes wrong with you, your family has no covering. And darkness will consume everything it can. Do you know that? You are the covering of your family. You are. You are. Somebody said social media users share videos showing their reactions to the audio without displaying the person speaking. We plan to execute between 70 and 80,000 and then correcting the statement to we plan to evacuate between 70 and 80 people, 70 and 80,000 people. I believe somebody made that gaffe. Yeah, it's not a good gaffe to have, but it's a gaffe. Hey, I've made worse gaffes. I did. Some pretty bad ones. But listen, it's never... See, here's what gets most people. You ready? You ready? Here's how darkness can entrap you guys. Number one, stop fearing death. Don't fear anything that can kill your bodies. Don't do it. Fear nothing that can kill your bodies. Now rethink everything. That's all you got to do. Take away the fear of anything that can kill your bodies. That's the only threat. And it's a useless one that they utilize against people to get them to think, in weird patterns. Put down your fear of the death of your body. How do you do that? Realize that your time to leave this earth, that your time for your body to die is already appointed. It's an appointment you're not going to miss. That happens to be the day of your freedom. That's the day you walk from this earthly vessel into a heavenly vessel. If you take that fear away, you're going to start seeing things very clearly. The only threat they have against most, because if you notice, most people speak and they're terrified to die. They're terrified because every single negative story out there, when you hear people reporting what's happening behind the scenes, they say, hey, they're trying to kill you. Well, if you take that away, what are they reporting about? When people talk about the vaccinations, life and death is in God's hands. Jesus has the keys of hell, death, and the grave. Nobody else does. He said, the Lord said, if you're poisoned, listen, if you're poisoned, that poison is going to be of no effect. That's what the Lord said. Do you hear me? So what are people afraid of? I'll tell you right now that you've been subjected to things that should have killed you 1,000 times by now. And it did absolutely nothing. You think a vaccine is bad. You've been exposed to worse. And it did absolutely nothing. It did nothing. Nothing. You're not even supposed to be here. Most of you freely go get your own poisons and you pay for them gladly with a smile on your face. You're not supposed to be here. But those things are nullified. Nullified. What people do is they bring up the controversial thing and say, well, if you take that, it's going to kill you. Can't you see that's divisive? As just a tool that they use to get people to lean to one side or the other. Stop playing the chess game of politics and of men. Step back into the kingdom. Stop fearing what man can do to your flesh. Your Father and your Lord has reign over your life, or do they? Did you give your life to Christ? If you gave your life to Christ, then your life does not belong to you. Somebody say, whoa, what happened to Mixler? Maybe they heard the conversation yesterday. Oops. But if you gave your life to Christ, what are you afraid of? And why would a Christian ever have you fearful of anybody who can destroy or kill the flesh? When you gave your life to Christ, and your life is not yours. If you gave your life to Christ, then by you being fearful and saying somebody can kill you, what you're saying is that somebody is stronger than your Lord is. That's what you're saying. You're saying that the Lord has no power against these people. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Lord forbid we ever say something like that. Nothing on this earth or in the heavens has power over the Lord my God. Nothing. Nothing. I hear people quote Psalm 91 with one breath and then say they're going to kill you in the next breath. What is that? That's a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. We have to be careful how we communicate to each other, because we're going to have each other believing things that's going to run our blood pressure up for no good reason. No reason. The vaccine. The components in the vaccine get put inside of you every single month. Did you know that? Did you know that? Did you know that? I tried to tell you guys this during COVID-19. Nobody wanted to hear. Everybody wanted to hear how the vaccines were going to kill you, how they were going to just nullify the power of Christ and kill you. That's essentially what people were saying, that the vaccine was stronger than Jesus. That's what people were essentially saying. Now you know why I got so a little up in arms about it. Now you're starting, because if somebody can make you afraid of a vaccine, they've got you. They've got you. They essentially are having people believe that some dumb vaccine mankind made can overpower the will of God or the will of Christ. The Bible says if anything is meant to poison you, it's going to be nullified, be of no effect when you belong to him. Now, if you don't belong to him, every evil thing in the world against you will prosper. My goodness. Haven't you noticed that that's a common threat? The only threat they have is, oh, they're coming to kill you. So what? I used to hear people say, well, you know what? Listen, here's the big one. Listen to me, y'all. Why is it a threat when they say they're going to depopulate the earth? Well, two things. Number one, they've been saying this for a long time, and our population grew. So one of two things is happening. Either they're no good at their job, they can't even get that right, Right? I could go so many ways with this one. And I guess I'm talking this way because now it's causing people to suffer unnecessarily. You have people out there refusing help from FEMA. You have people out there refusing to leave their homes because they don't believe the hurricane is coming. Because of social media. You have people out there believing it's a hologram. All because of irresponsible speech. It's almost like a train you can't slow down. Once one of these whoppers gets going, you can't slow it down. People would rather believe the lie than any truth at any given time. We're drawn to the fantastic things, and Satan is utilizing that to get us to help perpetuate the destruction of others. Lord have mercy. Let me say something. How many of you guys shop at stores? If you shop at a store, listen to me. I want to get you guys past the common way of thinking so that you can see the true picture. If you shop at a store, you're getting two elements of all vaccines. Two elements. If you use any type of solution, right? From any store that's liquid, you're getting the fourth type of an ingredient that's in all vaccines. Do you hear me? If you drink any beverage, you're actually ingesting 16 components of a vaccine. You've been doing this all your life. All your life. See, if I was evil and I wanted to get people to take a vaccine, I'm not going to put it in a vaccine. That's dumb. I'm not going to put it in a vaccine. No, I'm going to stick it right McDonald's. It's going to be on the paper. So you guys don't know about that, do you? You don't know about that. You don't know that somebody can take a pinch of something that looks like salt, throw it out the window of an aircraft, and everybody in a 6,000-mile radius will breathe it. You don't know about aerosols. You don't know about contact materials, do you? People go in stores, shopping malls all the time. They're touching things in the stores, right? You go and touch a box of anything. You just absorbed it through your skin. The fastest method of transport. Well, everybody's dodging the one thing. They've swallowed everything else, is what I'm telling you. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? So if you take away all the vaccinations, don't touch a vaccination, don't touch anything, you're still getting the poison. Do you hear me? It does not matter what you do. You're going to get it. If you live on this earth, you're going to get the poison. And you cannot dodge the rain. The rain touches everything. Sometimes it's just the lies that people tell. And then they have good people believing in the craziest things. Every day of your life, you're breathing aerosols. 30 to 50% of this atmosphere is full of aerosols. You're breathing them every single day. I'm telling you right now, it is Christ that keeps you going. It does not matter what you do. That's why a healthy person that's been isolated can fall down, collapse, and die at any given moment. It happens every single day. The Lord Jesus of Nazareth is your protection. Not to avoid this and that. I don't avoid anything. I walk through darkness. I never dodge it. I'm not here to dodge the darkness. I'm here to walk right through it. They've tried just about everything on me. Now, while the one person is sitting in the corner and they're afraid to touch everything, I'm walking and plowing through everything for the sake of the people. I'm sustained by Christ. This is a walk of faith. We're not here to dodge everything. It's a walk of faith. Obey the Lord in all things. But you'll not see, I know for a fact, if you don't take the one thing, you're sucking in aerosols every single day of your life. You're breathing it in every single day of your life. And see, I got a problem. I got a problem when I know the truth, when I know that people are breathing microbes and aerosols and everything else that are 1,000 times worse than any vaccination. That's why I know this vaccination stuff is nonsense. Because you're breathing components that should have killed you a long time ago. I'm telling you what I know. You're touching things. You know how if you touch fentanyl, what'll happen? What'll happen if your finger touches a little piece of some fingerprint that somebody left of fentanyl? In fact, if a guy who's had fentanyl in their system, if they touch a box of cereal with one finger and then you go back and touch that box of cereal in the same spot with the one finger, you overdose and die. That's with fentanyl. Do you know that? You touch somebody's fingerprint of something somebody else touched and they had fentanyl, you're going to die of an overdose. They already know that. That's through your finger. So let me ask you this. What's floating in the air that you're absorbing on a continuous basis? Aerosols float in the air. You go in a grocery store all the time, you're touching plastics. You're touching everything. I'm telling you right now, you've touched some deadly things, and you're not dead. If people are dying from fentanyl all the time, you're touching everything in a grocery store. And by the way, these things started back in the 50s. They've just refined the process. Lord have mercy. You take away anything, all vaccinations, all medications, all everything, and I'm telling you right now, you're breathing toxins. You're touching nothing but toxins, and you should have been dead a long time ago. It is your Lord who's sustaining you. It is the Father who's sustaining you. It's your Father. You can dodge anything you want. It's not going to work. They've already polluted the air. They've already experimented, and things have already gotten out. It's too late. It is your Father in heaven who's sustaining you. Now, you'd be surprised. That statement is offensive because people don't want to be alive by the power of Christ. They want to be alive by their own power. They want to say, no, I'm doing this. See, if it's one thing the Lord never did, the Lord never had me go in a direction that I would dodge death by. And all the communications and all my prayers and all my life, the Lord never had me dodge anything. He would always tell me, I'll show you. I'll show you my salvation. I'll show you my deliverance. He never said, Mike, dodge this, dodge that, dodge this, duck this, hop over, dodge this. He never did that. He never did that. The Lord always sent me to people to help people, and it looked impossible to do it. And he said, go. He didn't say duck and dodge anything. He said, go. And I went. When the Lord guides you, you'll complete anything he assigns you to. When the Lord guides you, he's not a chicken God. He's not going to tell you to start dodging things. Vaccine came out, I told you guys, listen to what the Lord tells you to do. If he tells you to take it, take it. If he tells you don't take it, don't take it. But let me make no mistake, the Lord doesn't have to have you dodge anything. He can nullify anything in this earth. See, I'll tell you what the real problem is. People do not believe in the power of the living God. That's the problem. They don't believe in the power of the living God. They believe you have to save yourself or you're going to die. That's what they believe. That's what they believe. So then in them is a message. You better watch out for this or you're going to die. You better watch. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible does not say watch out for this, that, and the other, or you're going to die. That's not what the Word of God says. That is not what the Word of God says. So why would God inspire certain things? My Lord, have mercy. See, I know this. What about the soldiers who had no choice but to take the vaccines? What about that? What about that one? The soldiers who had no choice but to take the vaccine. And forget COVID-19. There are 30 vaccines before that soldiers have taken that have done quite a bit. How about that one? What about all those good people in the world that have specific jobs and they have to take a vaccination once a week? What about level 4 facility workers who have to take a vaccination once every 2 weeks? What about them? And you know what they're doing? They're researching pathogens and deadly viruses so that people, evil people, can never destroy the populace by some contagion. So they can find cures to diseases. So they can make life a little more comfortable when somebody gets pneumonia. What about those people who are working in those level 4 labs, working with deadly pathogens and viruses? And they're trying to save lives. Like those folks who are trying to stop cancer. And they use certain things to do it with. What about those people? Those people are not doing anything nefarious. No. They're trying to make it so when a person goes in a hospital, they can actually get help. I don't know about you, but I've gotten an aspirin before and it helped. I've taken a Motrin before and it helped. So thank God for the knowledge that came down to tell those guys to make that stuff because it helped me. I suffered from migraines for months at a time. I've had all sorts of things go wrong. The Lord showed me early that those things that he will inspire of men is for men, that he works through us. He works through us. What about back in the day in the disciples? They used to do the root thing too. Did you know that? These guys were physicians. They used to pray and help people and have them drink this or that, and you'll recover. Did you know that? Interesting history back in Israel. Interesting. Somebody said, what's the purpose of a vax? Well, it depends. Sometimes a vaccination is to introduce the actual virus into the system, but it's a less powerful version of that same virus so that your body's immune system can kick in and fight that virus, right? So then when the real thing comes, it's already used to it, and it can kill it before it ever gets started. They got that from nature, by the way. Somebody called something called, small chicken pox, I believe it was, a smallpox, one of those. And this was back during George Washington's time. And soldiers began to catch it. It was killing people left and right. And so they took some of that chicken pox from somebody who actually got over it and gave it to somebody else. So listen, the idea of a vaccination, you hearing me? It began back during George Washington's time, right? Back in the war times. And it was for a good reason. So what does that mean? That means this, listen to me. That means this, listen. That means everything has an origin. Of course the devil is going to come in and do his thing. But you're supposed to listen to your Father in heaven. Now I'll stand by listen, I'm not scared of this stuff in the world. You listen to what your Father has given you to do. Period. Didn't I give you guys that instruction at the beginning of COVID-19? Yes. I said that at the beginning of COVID-19. I don't listen to men on things like that because I don't trust men. I don't trust what they do. I don't trust the little gadgets and things of that nature, right? I don't trust that. Your phone is doing more damage than a vaccine. You're going to find that out next year when they come out with the reports of the iPhone and something else that's affecting your children. And most people won't believe it until the year after that, which puts that in 2026 when they actually sue people for it. But they will tie technology to a condition in children. They will. Somebody said, would our Lord Jesus take the vaccine? He wouldn't have to. Isn't that a foolish question? Isn't that a foolish question? That's foolish. Isn't that a foolish question? I don't live by hypotheticals. I don't live in that world. See, I've seen people who live by hypotheticals and they're all dead. Do you know why? Because they live life foolishly. I live by the reality the Lord gives me every single day. Sure, it's a foolish question. It's a foolish question. There's no hypothetical with Christ. That's my Lord. I'm not going to play what if with my Lord. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But let me ask you this. If you found out that you were taking a vaccine every single week by eating food that's pre-processed, would your Lord sanction that? I'm telling you this. There are more poisons in the grocery store that you are ingesting than in a vaccine. And because you don't know that, you'll dodge the vaccine but eat the stuff in the grocery store. That's what I'm saying. You'll expose yourself to deadly toxins every single day. That's what I'm saying. Why would people dodge the vax and run to the grocery store? What about McDonald's? What about that? What about McDonald's? What about Wendy's? People eat that stuff all the time. You don't know anything about either one. Why would the Lord have you eat McDonald's or Wendy's and tell you not to take the vaccine? When Wendy's is worse. When McDonald's is worse. In fact, the kill ratio is off the scale. Answer that. Does it make a difference if you die in 2 days or if you die in 20 years? What's the difference? Anybody who eats McDonald's is exposing themselves to DNA-altering things. How about that? You can say that all day. People don't care. Because they're hungry, they'll say, oh no, my Lord wants me to eat. They'll go right to McDonald's. Right to McDonald's. See, what about the things you can't avoid? What about that? What about the things you cannot avoid? What about touching leathers? These synthetic leathers. Do you know how dangerous that is? Nope, nobody ever considers that. What about fly spray? Nobody ever considers that. What about perfumes? Nobody ever considers that. What about that stuff? I'm telling you right now, that stuff is far worse than any vaccine. Why would God allow people to do that? It's going to surely kill them 1,000%, but not do the other thing. See, that part makes no sense. I know the truth about some of the chemistry behind this stuff. So why would God allow the one thing and tell somebody don't do the other? I'm telling you right now, the Lord is your protection. Now, he didn't want you to run into a fire and tempt him. He didn't want you to do that. That's why I told everybody you have to listen to the Lord concerning the vaccine. You have to listen to him. But the people who sit there and weigh the scales? No, I'm sorry. You're doing more damage eating fast food, more damage eating processed foods, more damage touching things you don't know the origin of than taking any vaccine. I'm telling you, it's just like touching fentanyl. This stuff in the stores, the things you eat is just like touching fentanyl. See, if everything was laced with fentanyl, everybody say, oh, don't touch it. Don't touch it. That's what they would say because of instant death. I'm telling you right now, there are things in grocery stores, there are things in all these different places. As soon as you touch it, it's too late. It's in your body, and you cannot get rid of it. You're stuck with it for life. Because people don't know about that. They'll never bring it up. That's not the way the Lord works. The Lord will communicate things that are truth, whether you know about them or not. Whether you know about them or not, the Lord communicates truth. He will give you things you never heard of before, and you'll say, well, what in the world is that? And then sure enough, that thing will pop up later on. The Lord communicates truth, not a half-truth. He's not going to have you obey this truth and ignore that truth. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. He does not do that. He didn't do that. I went back and did my homework on certain subjects, and I'm telling you right now, a lot of people lie. They lie to sell books. They lie to get money. Now, when people put out free information and they're not involved in any platform or trying to get a person to buy something, I'm more prone to believe that than anybody selling anything. It's very difficult for me to latch on to anything being sold. See, because there's a rule of thumb here. If I had the truth about something, conviction would be so strong, right? I wouldn't care about the sales part of anything. There's big money behind the vaccine things on both sides. There are billions of dollars behind this vaccine, the vaccine fear-mongering and the vaccine acceptance. You don't even know that. They make money off both sides. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? And I'll tell you right now, I had no choice but to take vaccines, all sorts. I've taken vaccines I don't even know the names of. But I'm still here. I'm not afraid of death. I've also been shot, shrapnel, exposed to. I've also been starved to death and a bunch of other things. Jimmy crack corn, I don't care. I am still here. I'm not afraid of that stuff. And because I'm not afraid of it, and because I can overcome that, right? I don't subscribe to men's sayings. I don't subscribe to men's sayings. I know that men are prone to lie. I know that big time. Right? I know that big time. Follow the Lord. Follow the Lord. That's what my advice was at the beginning of the year. Do exactly what the Lord has given you to do. And you do it all the way. Whatever the Lord has given you to do, you do it 100%. Do it 100%. Somebody says women will be infertile due to those vaccines. Well, according to those experts, some of the vaccines that were taken back in the 70s, women should have been infertile already. I'll tell you, some people are infertile 2 days after taking it. It affects some people like that. Some people it does not. Some people it does. Some people it does not. It depends on the human body. Are vaccines safe? Are vaccines safe for anybody? Right? Are they? Let me ask you this. Is McDonald's safe for anybody? I'm telling you right now, Wendy's is going to take more people out than any vaccine would. That's a sure thing. You're going to go get Wendy's. I don't see anybody protesting milk. I can't even drink. You guys know how much I used to drink milk. I can't touch milk anymore. I cannot touch milk anymore. Something happened to the milk. Something happened to the milk. It absolutely did. But here's my caution, guys. Listen. Here's my caution. For those people who never took the vaccine, but you've touched everything else, the pain is still coming. It's still coming. Unless you have Christ, you will not escape what's coming. Torment is still coming. It does not matter what you have dodged or what you have taken. And I will submit to you now, those who are in perfect health are going to start dropping dead for no cause whatsoever. If you don't have Christ, you're done for. Period. But if you have Christ, your path is already paved. Obey Christ. Don't obey fear. I don't listen to fear. I don't listen to fear. I do not listen to fear. I don't listen to fear stories either, just so you know. So when somebody comes out and says, well, you're going to grow 6 tails by doing this, I don't listen to that. I listen to the Father. I will not hear fear. I don't give fear in the audience, ever. I don't do that. I never do that. Can you imagine what would have gone wrong in history if people would have listened to fear all the time. Don't listen to fear. Fear can have you sit in a corner of a room with a door locked, scared to get out of it. I saw a person run right into a light pole dodging chemtrails. Fear did that. Fear made that person crack half of their face. Fear did that. You're not going to dodge chemtrails. Sorry. They're falling all over the place. We know they're chemtrails. How are you going to dodge them? You don't see a bunch of people walking around in masks, and they know of chemtrails, and they know of the chemicals in the chemtrails, but who in the world is wearing a mask so they don't inhale it? Where's the mask at? Where are the masks at? What about the people that wrote the books about chemtrails? Do they wear a mask? No. What about the people that said they know the intimacies of chemtrails? Do they wear a mask? No, they don't. They do not wear a mask. Why don't they wear a mask? Why don't they wear a mask? Do you see? See how foolish some things are? You see? There you go, faith over fear. I will not give fear an audience. I'm not going to do that. Fear, I'm not going to. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. I don't live my life by fear, dodging things. Sorry, it won't work here. I'm not going to do it. Nor will I, and I'm not going to tell anybody else that you abide by fear. I'm not going to do that either. I'm not going to do the fear thing. Live your life according to truth. That's why we need the Holy Spirit. We need the Holy Spirit. Somebody said milk does not taste good. Yeah, they changed the formula. Just like they did the coffee. That's just messing up everything. Like we won't notice if they're making stuff with spider legs. Is it true that solar flares and solar activity is increasing the hurricane? Well, I noticed an anomaly in the upper atmospheres of that hurricane when it dropped. It dropped 50 millibars in a few minutes, right? Something has already happened to the atmosphere, and the sun is responsible, right, for the motion of the atmosphere. You guys know that, right? Because without the Earth, there are a lot of variables involved because the Earth is moving. The atmosphere is moving. Temperature is a constant, or some constant flux or change around the atmosphere, right? So solar flares, CMEs, all these different things, solar winds, they play a role in all the small little components of Earth. These things are changing rapidly. Rapidly. Do you hear me? A lot of meteorologists, they're actually scared by this storm. Scared. You know why? Because some things took place that are not supposed to happen. Because of extremes. They're starting to realize there's no way we can handle the true size and potential of what's coming. Through this hurricane, they saw the potential of what everybody's going to face next year. They saw the potential of what we'll face from this day forward. They had never seen it before. And all that was due to a pressure change. They have never seen pressure drop so quickly. See, listen, when people tell these stories where they have seen an animal frozen with leaves in its mouth, or a bee in mid-flight getting, nectar or getting pollen from a plant, and they froze in mid-flight, right? On the ground where they find these things, they know that a storm had been there. They essentially saw this storm suck that freezing cold air from the upper atmosphere almost down to the surface of Earth, and it scared people to pieces. If that were to take place, because it will, they couldn't see the rest because the aircraft had to get out of the way, right? They were trying to look for ice in the ocean this morning, last night, and the day before yesterday. Do you guys know that? Why were they doing that? Because they caught the bottom half of it. Looked like a big ice crystal. There was an instant freeze with this hurricane. An instant freeze means if you were in the middle of it, within 1 second, you would have frozen solid. You wouldn't have felt any pain whatsoever. You would have frozen solid. So they know that phenomena actually is soon to start taking place on this earth in sporadic places. Because it brought down that, it just made a hole where all those cold temperatures will suck down to the ocean, the surface of the ocean. Somebody says, sounds awesome. No, that will, anything it touches, right? Anything caught in that area is going to be just like any movie you've seen where anything is flash frozen. It's going to be flash frozen. That means fuel is going to freeze. That means everything will freeze, right? Everything. And that's exactly what happened in the past. Now, to observe that is horrifying. Believe it or not, it's horrifying to observe that. You don't want those conditions to be present on the earth in these days. It's horrifying. Imagine if that were to happen over a city, and they know, based on the formation of the eye of this storm, they saw some other things that is carrying them to pieces. Even right now, they're scared. Imagine if a hole opened up about 20 miles, and inside that hole were freezing cold temperatures, the same temperatures that are in space. They came down to the surface of the earth, and entire continents were frozen like that. Imagine that. Somebody said today's broadcast is so hot. Well, they're noticing these phenomena, and it's scaring them because now they have to consider the end days. One guy said he has to consider the end days scientifically, for real. And it's scary to them. They don't want anything in Revelation to be true. They don't want that to be true. I'll give you another example. A couple of months ago, I'm going to just say folks for now. There were some folks that were, how they dig up things and they do historical research and this and the other, where they found out that a specific building was made on the earth to keep something inside the earth. Now that sounds crazy, right? That sounds weird. But they wanted that thing to stay inside the earth. They wanted something to stay in there. So a few geniuses said, well, we got to find out, if is this true? Is this fake or something like that? And so they began to do some experiments and began to listen. Well, just listening scared some folks to pieces. And they bought in some heavy equipment to see if heavy equipment by way of, observation equipment to see if that was true. Well, the end results were those people are still in debrief right now. They've been in debrief for some time now, That structure, its location, everybody involved, they're hunting for them. They're trying to find them. They don't want anybody else going to that place because they fear that, the thing is they fear that somebody might remove something from this place. In fact, as it turns out, in this certain place, there are religious organizations who set up buildings on top of these chambers. Now, these chambers are not ordinary. They're just not ordinary. And evidently, something is quite active on the other side, right? Here's what I believe. I believe that, I know for a fact, that the Lord has put, let's just say we're separated from things, right? Nothing has come to get any of you, but on occasion, you may hear things looking at humanity. As darkness enters the hearts of men, these things have more and more space to go into, right? In other words, as people reject the Lord Jesus Christ, darkness has more area to roam, right? More area to roam. One day, an overwhelming force man will have to deal with. We're simply going to have to deal with it. And anybody left here on the earth during that time was not going to like it here. And that is a biblical narrative in a true sense. Here's the problem. People talk about Revelation as though it's mythical, as though it's some different type thing there. Guys, if you knew what was above your head, if you knew what was below your feet, you would not think about Revelation the same way you do right now. Because you would ask the question most people do is, why aren't we all dead yet? That's what you would ask. Why aren't we all dead yet? And then you would have no choice but to cry and to thank the Lord for real and to sit for at least a couple of weeks and process the information. People have had it so good, they've been so protected, they forgot they're being protected. I'll say it one more time. People have got it so good, and they're so protected, they have forgotten that they're being protected. They've totally forgotten. One day that protection is not going to be here on this earth. That begins with all the changes in the times we live in. And if you think this hurricane has scared people to pieces, there are people in the Middle East, right, who are forever changed. They're forever changed. They'll never go back to the Middle East. Some of these guys would rather face jail time than they go back to the Middle East. They'll never go back to the Middle East. They can't deal with it. And these are tough guys. And the problem was, a lot of tough guys, they don't believe in spiritual things. And when they find out that spiritual things are in fact flesh and blood things, that just messes everything up. They can't deal with it. Right? Can't deal with it. But humanity will have to find that out, unfortunately. And when they do, the narrative will be similar to the Bible. It's going to be far worse, though. The repercussions will be far worse. That's why Christ is so important now. Christ is so incredibly important now. Incredibly important. Incredibly important. But you guys will find out about that starting in November. You will start to find out that there are things that are... Forget ET. Forget that. It's more the animal kingdom you're going to have a problem with. You have a big problem with the animal kingdom. You will. You're going to have a huge problem with the animal kingdom. The Lord warned us, didn't he? He warned us. He warned us that death would come to this earth, that many would die by animals, by plagues. He warned us. He told us. He told us. It's part of the seals. Imagine this. Forget about animals you never heard of before or things scratching from beneath your feet. Think about this. Imagine you're shopping one day. You go out to your car and it's a tiger out there right next to you. What do? What do you do? Imagine you're on your nightly walk and bears start coming out. What do? In Phoenix, Arizona, imagine you're out there, you're just minding your own business, and you see some lions. What do? What do? Can you imagine what the news is going to say on a daily basis? On a daily basis. Because you know people are not going to listen. People are going to be curious. People are going to think they're Dr. Doolittle. And people will begin to die by animals. The same animals they seek to protect will consume their lives. The Lord has given this prophecy. A prophecy is one thing. To see that prophecy come to pass is something totally different. The Lord told us we would have storm and tempest. Now that these hurricanes are beginning to form in a very strange way, now that we're soon to have hypercanes, it changes everything, doesn't it? And by the way, this storm headed towards Florida and all of its stages is not comparable to what will form immediately after it. It does not compare to what will form right after it. People pay attention when it's too late. They know everything before something happens. And when it happens, it's too late. But regardless, I'll try to stay as consistent as possible. I know I sound like a nut job sometimes. I know I go against the better ways that you guys have within you, like concerning the vaccination, right? Remember about the vaccination side now. I'm telling you to do what your Father in heaven tells you to do. Not what fear tells you to do, not what man tells you to do. Get your information from all of them, but listen to your Heavenly Father, please. Can you do that? Do that. Somebody says, oh, the people in North Carolina, all right, some are not. Some have been helped by FEMA the second day. Some FEMA has not even gotten to. It's too much red tape. I said that on Pastor Paul's show about the red tape. You guys remember the red tape? I don't like red tape. I think it's foolish. If somebody needs help, go and help them. Let them fill out the paperwork after the fact. And stop trying to bill everybody for everything. Stop trying to do that. Keep in mind, though, listen to me, folks. Listen to me. Listen to me. When the winds came and the water came, that storm brought something nobody ever expected. Do you hear me? Nobody expected it to bring that much. And Asheville, North Carolina is a place that is prone for flooding. They have, if you look at anything concerning Asheville, North Carolina and flooding, and you're going to see they have their own little special rule set concerning floods. And they tell people this area is plagued by floods and mudslides and everything else. Yet, people persist on living there. I begged my two nieces to get out of that place. To get out. My goodness. Black Mountain, the interest of Black Rock, the lithium interest in that place is ruined. It'll be a year, 2 years before Black Mountain recovers, if it recovers at all, to be honest with you. The people, there are lots of people that won't recover from this. The landscape has been changed forever, and it's only the beginning. Listen to me carefully. If you think this hurricane was the last one to go through that area, you're wrong. Worse storms will come and consume that entire place. That's a warning across the bow. Why do people, God gives warnings, people are not listening. California, God has given warning after warning. Mark the places where the fires have been. He's warning people, get out. Get out. If a place continues to fall apart, why would you stay there? Get out. Get out. But see, so long as you believe that people are sending these storms, you're messing up. I believe that's messing people up, because if you believe that men are sending these storms, right, you're not going to attribute these storms to your Father, which could be a warning of something worse to come. God will always foreshadow a danger. He will. But we won't listen for anything. It takes a good 4 years for a person to get up and move. There was a time I had hoped that everybody would have left the East Coast, period. That's the truth. And that was 20 years ago. I was hoping everybody would just move from the East Coast. I even hoped that for the West Coast, but people are not going to leave. People are going to wake up one day They're going to have a foreshadowing in California. A large chunk of California will separate from the main mass here very soon. It's unfortunate, but it's going to happen. It's going to separate. So people are going to wake up, and there'll be a type of island California has not had before. But I'm telling you right now, people will see that. They'll adjust to it. And they will still stay in the same area. And when the calamity comes, it will consume them all. The East Coast will end up being evacuated. It will. But in this day and age, if you don't have enough proof, scientific evidence, no one will act on anybody's word anymore. It'll be very overwhelmingly convincing, right? Things have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. Or people should really concentrate on hearing from the Most High. There is no way the Lord would give me something and hold it back from everybody else. There's no way that would ever happen. There's no way. But see, sometimes you can be so comfortable in a place you don't want to hear anything that would ever come against it. That happens often. I used to be that way. I could like something so much that I would not hear anything that would ever give me a warning about that thing I liked so much. I'm not like that anymore. In fact, I live my life ready to part company with everything and everyone at a moment's notice. I do that so I can hear the Lord always. I'll never love anything more than Him. Because if I do, whatever I love more than Him will blind me to Him. I can't afford for that to happen. I know now that if I go down, and any who depend upon me may also go down too. Right? There's still some young ones. They still need me a little bit. They have to be raised up so they can walk by themselves. Then I'm free to go. But we live in different times. Very fulfilling times. Update on the storm, guys. 165 miles an hour is a Category 5. Pressure is 902 millibars. So it is still, and it's still going at 10 miles an hour. Still at 10 miles an hour, right? We're going to watch this very closely in the next, from anywhere from right now to about 10 o'clock. Eastern time is going to give us a telltale sign. I'm looking for a pressure drop. If we see a pressure drop, oh my, that's going to scare some more people. It will. Right now, it looks like the core of the storm is going to hit right there at Tampa. So that storm surge is going. Hopefully, we're hoping that the wind speeds will die off because of some of the cooler flows going up through there. Hopefully, it dies off just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take a break, guys. I'm going to be back in just a few minutes. Somebody said back in the 800s, the millibars are. I'll be back in just a few minutes, everybody, okay? Just a few minutes, right here at CoT. Okay, everybody, I'm back. Somebody said, I think the vaccine topic was a bad one. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Because it's going to continue to pop up. And who are we if we can't start to see the truth of these things? You know what the truth is? The truth is we are scared as chickens sometimes. We are. We are. And the truth is we can have a little more faith in our Father. We are. So I'm going to make two things clear. Here it is. You ready? Like a repeating bell. Do what the Lord tells you to do. Do that, not fear. And just in case you did not know, every vaccine has caused problems. Do you really think mankind can make something that can really, not have issues? Are you kidding? Everything they make has drawbacks. Everything we make has drawbacks. Only our Father can be perfect, right? In engineering such a thing. He already perfected life. He already did that. We go tampering with things. We mess stuff up. We do. We know it. We mess things up. That's just the reality of it. That is the reality of it, right? That's a simple reality. Simple reality. With everything. Hamburgers, French fries. But I'll tell you something. Without Christ, you're done for. You're done for without Christ. Period. You're done for. That's the way that is. Now, we'll tell you something else before it ever gets started. I don't want you guys to get frightened either. I can almost guarantee a vaccine is going to come out. And people are going to jump to it. Do you know why? They do not want to face the consequences. I guarantee it. They're going to formulate a vaccine. Listen to me carefully. I'm telling you something I know. They're going to formulate a vaccine. And people are not going to say, oh, it's going to kill you. They're going to say, nope, take it. Take anything. Take anything. Just don't get that. I'm telling you what I know. It's going to flip. It's going to flip so fast. It's going to flip. Because we're not going to be dealing with COVID. We're not going to be dealing with anything humanity has ever dealt with. We're not. I mean, it's going to be right out of the pages of some sick, twisted video game thing. Nobody is going to want to deal with it. So let me give you a hint of what I'm talking about. In the insect world, there's a fungus that grows and takes over the nervous system of tarantulas, of crickets, of worms, of ants, of beetles. Any bug you can think of, it takes it over. And it takes over the nervous system, and the bug ends up in a specific place. And it dies gruesomely. The spores come out, and other things catch it. Now, there's never been a case, up until 2019, there's never been a case of that fungus ever successfully binding with human DNA. Never been a case. All that ended in 2020. All of it did. All of it. It is such a bad thing that at first it was classified. It takes approximately 48 hours for your body to be covered. Another 72 hours for the person to scream on a continuous basis in pain, because that's what it does, It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. The actual case happened in Venezuela when it jumped to humanity in Venezuela. The fungus mutates. The fungus is intelligent, right? It's a very social type of organism. It's very different. And it actually jumped to humans. It does not take long to do what it does. But I do know this, once it starts to replicate, it's done for. There's no chopping off a limb to save a person, because it goes right into the bloodstream. And topically it begins to, transfer from there to other places. Well, that has happened. That's only one of them. There's some other things, too, that have happened. Many viruses have been mutating because people have had antibiotics. Now, while everybody else is talking about every other thing, in my opinion, antibiotics is the most deadly thing on the face of the earth to human beings. They should have never been introduced to humanity. But it was, and it compromises the immune system. Once you take an antibiotic, everything in your generational line is then altered forever. Right? Children, when they eat fast foods, are consuming antibiotics because those animals are fed antibiotics and hormones. That's why kids are so tall and they look alike now. Have you noticed that? Most people don't talk about this, but if you look at all the mixed children, they all look like one family. And out of those mixed children, there are identical children that look just alike. They share the same height, same body proportions and ratios. They do. They think differently. They do. They do. This is happening right here on the face of the earth. So all the old races are being bred out. And new races are coming in. If people could get over their fences, they could see what's actually happening. If you dig in Scripture enough, you'd notice a few prophecies that mark the end days. Especially one specific prophecy about an apostate generation. Which means there are some folks who have no identification with Christ and things of that nature, and that would be the dark time. That would mark the dark time. That's when our skies change. That's when the heavens are going to be altered. Things will change. They will. Somebody said, Brother Mike, there was a Doppler signal over India right before the quake in Iran. Oh, well, when you're dealing with earthquakes, listen. You're dealing with earthquakes and wartime situations. You need another piece of equipment other than Doppler to really find out if it was, enemy fire or what. You need some sort of vertical sensor that can show you anything that would reflect off Doppler vertically, right? Unfortunately, Doppler does not show the vertical traces of what it picks up, right? It only shows you this flat image. You need that vertical trace to find out origins of things. Here's why. Because certain munitions are known to cause earthquakes. Certain munitions are known. There's one munition that's known to cause storms. They didn't mean it to cause a storm, but it does. There are effects that are happening in the atmosphere. That's why war is a bad idea, guys. It's a bad idea. Listen, because with some of the explosives that we have now, the explosions cause particles to accelerate almost to the speed of light, just like a particle accelerator. And if you knew what they were doing with a particle accelerator, everybody in the world would go and protest CERN and say, stop. Stop. That's what they would do. They'd say, stop. The reason why nobody is going to protest CERN is because they don't believe certain things are real. I will tell you that scientists have found things there that they're frightened of. They can't explain it. They don't know how it happened. It's kind of like that new power source. Has anybody investigated that new power source? Let me explain something to you about this new power source. The new power source takes an engine, right? A motor, a standard engine, and you start a reaction with plasma, right? The plasma, when plasma is actually captured, it emits pure oxygen. So it sucks in all the carbon and emits pure oxygen. Listen to me. Because that's why global warming is such a fool's notion. It will take in carbon dioxide and it will emit pure oxygen, which is fed back into the intake of the engine, which runs the engine. Now listen, the more exhaust that comes out of the engine, the more this reaction is going to process pure oxygen. It's almost 0 point energy. It's not quite 0 point energy. Almost. This device is in operation right now. It's been running for 3 years straight. It has the highest efficiency known. Nobody has ever made anything with that type of efficiency. And what I'm telling you is this. With a cup of water, you can run your car indefinitely. That's what I'm telling you. For at least 50 or 60 years. With a cup of water. Through your car's engine. With a cup of water. With this cylinder. With a cylinder mod. That will actually contain and hold that plasma. Your car battery is used to cause that initial reaction. Plasma. It gets started. Right? The burn. Or the plasma. Once plasma gets going, it starts to spin in vertices. Once you have opposite plasma origins, right there in the center of both plasma swirls, the reaction takes place. There's a stabilization event. A super, 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 super bright light forms, and it emits pure oxygen. This is not make-believe. This is real. This is real. And guess what? Here's the funny part. I think we have about 12 of these engines, right? They cannot find out what's happening in the reaction. They still can't find out. CERN has been used to replicate some of the particulate reactions. They still can't find that whatever is caught. They can't isolate. They can replicate it all day. They can make it work. They can put it in vehicles all over the earth. Right? They could do this. You could run your house off one. But they cannot find out what's happening in the middle of that reaction. They still cannot do it. They can't do it. So they actually have something working, but they cannot explain how the reaction is working. And you're not going to believe the components that are inside a glass tube. 2 Brillo pads. That's right. 2 Brillo pads. Or inside that glass tube. That's where the reaction takes place, right in between. It's not some complicated thing. It's a natural phenomena they stumbled onto. It was a mistake. They stumbled onto this. And it works. And they're thinking about bypassing certain laws that require a person to know every aspect of something, to bypass it and to begin to use it. Yep, they can case it in some sort of explosive-proof casing. They can manufacture it, and they're going to do that. So can you imagine? This is where some of the new batteries are coming from, because lithium batteries are dangerous, right? Like this flood, like this hurricane that's coming. Do you guys not know that if people have electric vehicles that get drenched in salt water, those things could go up in flames? Houses are burning up just about every week on beaches, right, or near beaches, from folks with EV vehicles, because of lithium batteries and salt water. That salt water causes connectivity. It will short out and cause a reaction, of course, with the battery. High current flows from one end to the other. The reaction starts within the lithium, and then bye-bye. It's going to blow. It's burning down houses just about once every 2 weeks. Lithium fires from EV vehicles, right? So if when they come out with this new power source, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. It is near 0 point energy. It's a game changer. And it emits pure oxygen. No other contaminants. None. Zero. They measured all the gases going in and all the gases going out. So they have those mass spectrometers all over the place. Tons of them. Measuring every type of gas and every type of particulate it could ever throw out. It only throws out oxygen. Pure oxygen. That's it. So there you are. The Navy is not happy about that side story. Why? Because they found that much earlier. They found that reaction, the Navy did, back in the 70s. They got so upset that they actually started getting into a bragging contest, and somebody released a patent on naval technology. They released the patent number, and there it was, the same reaction from the 70s, patented by the Navy. And that's something. Of course, they couldn't find out what made it work either. So they could only patent certain aspects of the mechanics of the thing. They could not patent the actual device itself to its intimacies because they didn't know what the reaction was on the inside. How interesting is that? That means the Navy had something like that for a long time. That's what it means. So when they tell you something has a nuclear reactor, it could be a little tiny little box back in the corner of a wall somewhere, right? It's actually running. Can you imagine that? You see an aircraft carrier, right? They say, well, it's got a nuclear powerhouse in there. But then you go inside the nuclear powerhouse and nobody can go inside. And you see this little ammo crate, little bitty box, maybe 12 inches by 20 inches. You look in there and the main power source is in that box. And there's 2 Brillo pads and a glass tube with some junk hanging out the tips, powering the whole ship. Wouldn't that be funny? That'd be the funniest thing ever, right? The Earth has endless amounts of water. Oh, they found out something else. It can take salt water and emit pure water. They found that out too. Somehow it utilizes the salt. It utilizes some other components, and it pulls out pure water out the other end. Found that out too. So as it turns out, some of this more esoteric technology that people have been searching for has an actual simple answer. So simple, just about everybody says it's so simple that anybody can put this together in their kitchen. They just don't know how. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? So all this complicated stuff that we have built, for what reason did we build it? None of it works. Strange days would have been. Strange days. Guys are saying, just before I go, they're saying this storm, right, could be compressed, which means it could lose some of its classification, right? But it could become much broader. Here's what that means. This storm could stretch from, say, for example, the tip of Florida all the way to the top of Georgia when it's done. The track is changing, though. It's changing. And so I'll tell you guys something again. For some reason, every time we have a hurricane or any storm of great size like this, 5 high-pressure systems form. They stay stationary within the USA. They do not move the duration of the storm. 5 specific high-pressure systems. And they can allow or disallow that storm to move in certain ways. They have formed again. They have. They're the only elements of weather that can actually take this storm out. If one of those high-pressure systems were to move south, right, it could absolutely take all the power out of this storm. Absolutely. We know that you can look at it and see why the storm is staying so far south. It's because of those high pressure systems. They're not moving. Those things are stationary. There's one big one over the East Coast. In fact, a high pressure system over the East Coast is positioned right where the heart of the last hurricane hit, Helena, right? So this one, this hurricane, Milton, can't take that same track unless it moves. Now, it's too early to see what they're actually going to do, but they haven't moved yet. They haven't moved. I think that's a miracle. I have seen these just ever since I started tracking these hurricanes this way. And when I learned about meteorology, they teach about certain things when you're learning it. I could not believe how high pressure systems behaved. I couldn't believe it. They behave more like an entity than anything else. They actually do. They determine whether storms can form or not. And I remember asking the question, my goodness, that was back in the early 80s. I remember asking that question, why are they not moving? The jet stream is moving, right? All current flows indicate that everything else should be moving. Why do they not move? Why don't they stay stationary like that? Never received an answer. One gentleman pointed me to Jupiter, the red storm. And they had me look into the red storm. That's when I found out that big red storm on Jupiter was the hottest spot on Jupiter. Did you guys know that? It was the hottest spot on Jupiter. It was almost as though it was self-sustaining. And it was not a storm. They called it one from long view observations. That's not what it was. It was something else. That's when I found out that Jupiter, the story they told about Jupiter, was a lie. Even its mass is a lie. Jupiter is quite massive. And the core of Jupiter will just mess you up. Jupiter is actually, it really is like it was a planet there once, and someone attempted to cause that planet to be something else. That's what it seems like. And it shares some of the same gases from the planets around it. That let me know this solar system is most certainly engineered, right? Kind of like that new moon we have. How long have we had one moon, right? How many times have we had objects come into our atmosphere, or not atmosphere, but our range of pull for gravity, right? And never take up an orbit. That will become a second moon. And you know that thing is, how big is that thing? Does anybody out there know how big that thing is? Anybody know? Somebody said, Mike, do you think pennies will be safe state to live in? Oh, Pennsylvania? Do I think Pennsylvania is going to be a safe state to live in? Listen, I want you guys, especially K-Star 50, hear me close on this. That requires you to pray. I'll tell you something I know for a fact. When you're looking for a safe place to go, a place to put your family, this I know for a fact. The Lord can have you move to a place that will be safe for you, but it will not be safe for me. Okay? I've seen that too many times. And I've learned, over the course of my life, I've learned to listen to the Lord on where to go, right? Because I'm telling you, I've been a part of things, and I've seen things that the average person just would not think about. So I'll say it again. If the Lord led you to go to Pennsylvania, a specific place in Pennsylvania, it could be safe for you and your family, but it may not be safe for me. And the same thing can happen. It can be vice versa. There could be a place that can be safe for me and not safe for you. And so what you have to do is you have to really listen to the Lord. The best way to listen to your Lord is to really sit down, right? And begin to meditate on his word and him. And then talk to him as you would talk to me. But take fear out of it. You have to remove the element of death out of your conversation. Remove it. Remember who you're approaching. It is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And simply ask him. When you ask him, if you receive no answer right there at that moment, have patience and wait. He will never fail to instruct you. When he does instruct you, you may even shed a tear because you'll say, he does love me. It'll be confirmed. But most importantly, open your ears to him. Seek to hear from him, not fear, but him. Don't listen to fear. Listen to him. He will instruct you. He will not fail to instruct you. So listen to him. You have to be ready for that, because I learned something else too. There were times I would pray and I say, well, the Lord didn't give me an answer. Yes, he did. The Lord answers me in dreams a lot. And that's just for me. He answers me in dreams. He does it a lot. There were other cases when dreams are not, when I don't dream a lot, he'll answer me in other ways. I remember I used to pray to the Lord, and I'm telling you, there were individuals that would come up and suggest the answer to that prayer at least 10 to 12 times. They didn't even know they were doing it. And I would say, okay, Lord, there it is. So he will instruct you in the right way. Just because it's safe for one person does not make it safe for the other person. Okay? Also, all of us have a path. All of us have a path. Your ending, your finishing of your race could be different than me finishing my race. And in a different way. Take that into account. But trust him. Trust him, trust him, trust him. Trust him. Always trust him. And listen, the more you can hear from the Lord, the more you can follow what he says, the more confidence you're going to have in him. Then you'll be a witness of his deliverance, of his guidance. And when that happens, you'll not listen to anybody else anymore. You'll say, nope, my Lord will instruct me. Right? Somebody say, question, has a great red storm dissipated? Not really dissipated. It was obscured for a while. It didn't really dissipate. They thought it did at one point, but it did not. It did not. It simply, it was obscured for a while. Jupiter went into a chaotic type of thing. And in a few frames, right, of some of the video and pictures they took, it seemed like it was not there, but that wasn't the truth. Right? That was blurring. It was a blurring effect in between some of the shots. It was still there. It just altered, pretty much. Somebody said, it may be different. Let me see, U.S. Central Command is reporting. Yes, it will. It will. It will. Well, somebody else says, Milton is to go right over U.S. Central Command, right? Or SOCOM. It'll go over right over U.S. Central Command. It's reported, projected to be destroyed. Any thoughts? It's not the first time a hurricane has destroyed command elements of the U.S. military. It is not the first time. This last storm, Helene, destroyed another command element and a very important satellite dish. It destroyed it. I mean, it absolutely destroyed it. So these hurricanes, that's why a lot of people say, well, you know, HARP did this. Or why would I have to shake my head sometimes. I do. I have to shake my head sometimes. Because there are so many times when these storms destroy critical military equipment, right? And they cause the military to be set back and this and that. Why would the military attack itself? They don't need HARP. They have the iPhone. What they need HARP for? The iPhones can do. The iPhone is like having a mini HARP station all over the earth. They can do things over the phone network now that were impossible last year. They do things now with iPhones that will just mess you up. It'll mess you up. Every iPhone is part of a machine. Put it that way. Every iPhone. That sounds like something off a cartoon, right? Every iPhone can transmit wattage frequencies. Every iPhone can do that, right? If I showed you guys the whole system, you'd be like, I got it. I got it. 5G stands for fifth generation. But this is going to mess you up. You ready? All those towers, you know what they do? They help synchronize your phones. Then your phones actually perform the function. Starting to get it? We'll go over that when we go over AI. All those towers coordinate. They coordinate the timing of the phones. So every phone is coordinated and timed in what the phone is about to do. So imagine if every single iPhone let off a tiny pulse all at the same time. Fifth generation cellular communication is utilized to coordinate all the phones together. But the phones themselves actually do the work, not the tower. So you can knock the towers down and you still have the phones. People forget about that part. Getting rid of the towers is not going to solve your problems. The tower is a simple communication device, and yes, it communicates at high speed. Yes, it has the all the gigahertz and Wi-Fi up to, you know, some high communications, but your phone does all the work. It's your phone that's sending out all the signals. Okay? Your phone is doing this. So imagine if every phone on the surface of the earth were coordinated and sent out a pulse. What do you think would happen? Every iPhone, if it sent a pulse out, what do you think would happen? What do you think would happen? And if you could triangulate the direction, right? You know something called, have you guys ever heard of frequency steering? What that essentially is you can take one signal from, say, a ball and output a signal, and you have two other balls. Based on the frequency and the volume or the wattage of that frequency, you can steer the end frequency. You can steer it. You can make it bend, form a loop. You can make it form a shape. You can make it touch anything you want it to touch. So 3 points, and you can triangulate where a frequency can be sent. So with 3 iPhones, you can frequency steer a pretty big signal to touch any place, anywhere. Anywhere. Anyway, there you are. Why would they need something like that? Because something is happening that's happening on a continuous basis with humanity. Our dark kingdom will rise. No one is going to stop that. No one is. They don't want you dead. They want you against your Creator. They want you against Christ. They want you to believe that faith has failed. They want you to resort only. They want you to believe in science so much that you're no longer part of the faithful. They want you to become a slave to their facts. Because believe it or not, everything we know comes from them. Most of us do not have laboratories. So most of the data comes from them. Need to remind you of that. Or they make you believe in the science. Essentially, you're trusting them. Similar, his songbird. Those are parts of it. Not the whole thing, but parts of it. Frequency steering is something that's extraordinary. It's very difficult and takes a supercomputer to do it. But it is, its effects are much like lightning. You know how lightning can form and can touch different things and then it's gone? That's frequency steering. It's just that you cannot see it. You can't see it. That means they can utilize every electronic device as a weapon against somebody else. It also has other purposes, but we'll discuss all that. Folks, that storm is changing its track pretty fast. This is new. For the last 45 minutes, the storm has been altering its track. It does not look like it's going to follow the same track they had earlier today. I've been looking at this for 45 minutes, and it's altering quick. I'm going to have to look at some indications and see what's causing this, but it's changing its track. It's actually shifting big time. We're going to see in a little bit what's actually happening, of course, once we get the closer we get to the point of impact, the more accurate we're going to be about this storm, but it is changing its track. So if I were anybody out there, I wouldn't trust any definitive location they're saying it's going to land in. If it begins to broaden, it's not going to matter in the first place. But there is a chance it could do something nobody expected. There's more than a chance. We're just going to have to follow these high pressure systems and see what's happening, because there's a notable shift. This thing is actually shifting. It is actually shifting. They're going to have to change their modeling recommendations. Certain variables redo that what they're projecting is no longer accurate. Can't be accurate. Shifting too much. That's very interesting. I'll be looking at this storm, guys, because tomorrow, it's going to hit tomorrow. It'll hit tomorrow. And it'll be nice to know, or be a little more precise, and what it will and will not affect. I'm going to do my best to track it, keep you guys notified on Channel 0. I know I said so last night, but nothing really happened except in the Middle East. Things happened in the Middle East last night that were awful, just awful. Somebody said, Mike, can prayer change it? Of course it can. Humility of God's people can always change the outcome of any disastrous situation. Humility. That means instead of poking one's chest out and saying, I'm right, if one would take a step back and yield to the Lord and say, Lord, instruct me, show me what I must do. That's humility. That's humility. When we do that, we honor the Lord. When we do that, we surely do honor him. And he changes things. This last storm was altered big time. We talked about that before the storm started going up the East Coast. I told you guys that storm was going up the East Coast. Not purely by science either. No. But by prayers and desires and your agreement with prayers. I was very confident. And it skipped over major areas. It did its damage, yes, it did. But it could have been far worse. These things happen for a reason. They do. Somebody said to get Channel 0 to go. Yeah, go to Council of Time audio to Channel 0. That's where you hear it. Now, there's no music playing on Channel 0. Okay, so if I come on, there's no introduction music. Just flop on there. You can leave that player going on a continuous basis if you so desire. But if I show up, I'll show up on Channel 0. That's kind of like my private channel. That keeps everybody else clear of I get foot and mouth disease. You guys know what that is? I put my foot in my mouth. And so on Channel 0, I have more flexibility to put my foot in my mouth without repercussions. Make sense? So I can really talk freely on that one. But I'll keep that open for quick commentary, some updates, things of that nature. And I'm trying to get good at recording the day's activities so that you guys, anybody who misses any of those, abrupt things, if all you guys missed it, at least it'll be on the master of recording anyway. So somebody says, do you have to sign in? No, you don't have to sign in to listen. You don't have to sign in to listen to COT. You really don't. So that's why we have a lot of listeners. I mean, a ton of listeners. We get a ton of listeners sometimes. But that doesn't mean they necessarily interact with the site. We have a lot of repeat listeners that are not, they have no account with COT, none whatsoever. They just like to listen. So, but as the Lord said, what he gives us freely, we give freely, right? I'll always do that. Just from now on, I'm going to do that in a more constructive way. Mic standards again. Hopefully I didn't go overboard. Angela used to help me not go overboard when I used to set things up. See, I had to break that habit of that dumb perfectionist stuff. I did. I had to break that habit. Especially when I'm presenting something. I had to break that habit. That's a very difficult habit to break. But that has to be one of the dumbest habits on earth for me to have. So anyway, here we are. So Mr. Mike, before you go, know how grateful we are that the Lord allows you to be in our path. No, thank you all. Listen, I'm grateful that I'm able to speak of anything that would help anybody. I'm also grateful, and I know I'm controversial, but I'm very grateful that I'm able to communicate certain things that many won't. More than that, though, I am blessed when I'm a blessing. I feel really blessed when someone is helped, when someone gets, when they can read the Bible more, when their relationship with Christ has a little more, it's a little more established than before. When somebody's no longer operating by fear, but they're actually pursuing a relationship with Christ. See, because I know, once you meet the physician, you're in good hands. I can only help point the way. But the physician, the great physician, he is the ultimate goal. He's got you. He does. He's got you. Folks, I want to say God bless you. You guys, I'm going to keep you updated as much as I can, but I know you guys know lots of people on the internet. I know they're on top of the story right now. Okay? I know they are. You guys be blessed, be safe, lift each other up, pray for one another. Again, I'll be on Channel 0. If I pop in there, I'll be on Channel 0. I am watching something, though. We have some changes taking place with this storm. And it's very unusual. And I will discuss those after I can pinpoint what's happening here. I hope it does not do the boomerang thing. But I entertained that thought last night. We're going to find out. We surely will. You guys be safe. Keep each other lifted up in prayer. Pray for those who are in line with this storm. Please pray for them. I know I certainly will. I'll be praying for you guys. Praying for them too. Damage from storms is devastating. It really is. It really is. And even now, their insurance companies will not cover the flood damage. They have to fill out certain forms from FEMA to cover flood damages in Florida. So that's just more red tape, more things people have to do, right? More things. Hey, Peter, we do have one. We had it launched before. It'll be relaunched, but yes, we can do that too. Keep that idea fresh. That's a very good idea. That's a very good idea. We actually still have a lot of, some of the users in CoT have dreams and visions and writings in their accounts. Once we centralize that, that'll be in something like a Wicked type format. We can certainly do that for you guys. We can do that for you guys. That's a good request. Remember, folks, I work for you. Remember that. You don't work for me. I work for you. So what you want? Well, that's my work, isn't it? That's how it goes. Everybody be blessed. Why were people being denied by FEMA? That's very confusing. Some people were. I know personally of a great many people who were held by FEMA already. For example, a lot of people, they didn't fill out the forms. FEMA's not going to come up with it. They have the red tape. I don't like the red tape, right? It's the red tape that gets in the way. But then again, they just can't hand somebody a bunch of resources because of thieves. That happens all the time too, right? Thieves. So they have people fill things out. I did see with my own eyes. I saw people upset saying they're not going to fill out anything and they were demanding help. That makes no sense. If you get angry and you tell somebody you're not going to fill out anything, yet you demand help, that's foolish. That's foolishness, don't you think? So some people were there causing trouble. They were there causing trouble. They were just causing trouble. They didn't want to fill out anything. They didn't want FEMA to know their name or anything, and they demanded help. That was quite foolish. Quite foolish. Somebody says, fill out a form on the internet. They didn't have then it's $750 was to buy toothpaste, stuff like that initially. There are other forms that they will give out tens of thousands of dollars if people would go and fill out the forms. They gave everybody $750 so they can go and get some immediate water and food and stuff like that for their family just for a couple days. It was stipulated that $750 was only for a couple days for sustenance and for immediate needs. But if the people needed something, there are other forms they can fill out. So if you're there right now and you fill out the other forms, right? You fill out those other forms, they'll take care of you, right? No, the $750 is not alone. It's not alone. It's to help the people out. That's to get them something to eat, because a lot of people lost their wallets. They lost their access to money and everything else. And so what FEMA did was they gave everybody $750 to get some food, to possibly get maybe some medicine or something like that for a couple of days. And then they go back and fill out the forms. But again, you're dealing with red tape. When you're dealing with the government, there's going to be forms to fill out. And people don't like to fill out forms. They need some folks down there that will actually fill out the forms for the people who don't want to fill out the forms to really push that through. But they need a system where they should verify a citizen. If the citizen can be verified, then go ahead and help the person and fill out the stuff later. How about that? That would solve the problem so quickly. It really would. It really would. If you can verify a person is not an illegal immigrant, then go ahead and help that person out and fill out the forms later, right? They're not going anywhere. They live in the country. What are they going to do? Hi? Come on. That's all they have to do. That's all they have to do. I suspect they're going to start changing it, because believe it or not, all the complaints are causing them to do things in a different way. They're going to push everything to the front, make all things visible so people can. Because the stories are getting so outlandish now. Listen, just open up everything to people. Let people see everything. Let people know everything. Put everything up front. Right? That's what they're doing, which is a good thing. So many complaints came in, and so many people are making up stories on them. Now they're forced to tell the truth, right? That's a funny thing. But they need to get rid of that red tape. If they get rid of the red tape, they'll be in... Everything will work so much, especially in a disaster zone. It's not like it's U.S.-wide, right? If you obviously see damage, you see people have issues, help them out, and then take care of the paperwork later. When you're dealing in an emergency situation, you don't wait for the paperwork. That's stupid to wait for. Who's going to bring paperwork? That would be like somebody stuck on the side of a mountain after their car crashed. Two people repel from rescue services to go and get them and say, well, we can't hook you up to this harness until you fill out this form. Are you serious? No, you just go help the person out first, get them stabilized. Do what you got to do, and then take care of everything later after they're secure and taken care of and safe. Right? That's so easy to do. And that's people's major complaint. Then after they're safe, they're going to want their house back, property back, and everything else. So start getting everything, start getting everything done. Back in the day, they used to use the military to do things like that all the time. All the time. But folks, one day we know that our Father will be back, and we won't go through these things anymore. We know that. One is, one is not. One is, one is not. One is okay, one is not. Folks, listen. I'm going to let you guys go, but if I show up, I'm going to be on Channel 0. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for the conversation tonight. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm going to go. I'll be back. I'm going to track some things on the storm so I can get you guys an update. All right. God bless and keep all of you all. And I'll see you guys next time right here at the Council of Time.